Hey everyone. Being a bit of a rail fan before I actually became a railroader, I'd always been curious about the signals used on the railroads to control trains. Now, I actually learned how to read them before I became a railway conductor, and I know a lot of rail fans have always been curious as well, and of course, model railroaders wanting to put in functioning systems onto, or functioning signals onto their layout. So I thought I'd put together this crash course on reading railway signals. Now, the signals I'm going to show are Canadian railway signals. A lot of railways in the US use these same signals or similar, or the same concept of signals, but with different methods of display. Now, we use colored lights here in Canada, but the Raton subdivision in New Mexico still has semaphores. The Pennsylvania Railroad and Baltimore and Ohio Railroad use a cross between colored signals and semaphores. The lights are colored and show the semaphore position of horizontal, 45 degrees, or vertical. The most common signals are the searchlight signals. Now, these are a single light which gets focused through two lenses, and then the light passes through a colored glass to make it either red, yellow, or green. You can see the three colored glasses in this picture of the internal workings of a searchlight railroad signal. The holder gets pushed to the right or to the left by an electromagnet to put the yellow or green glass in front of the light. Notice that the middle glass is red. This is a fail-safe. If the electromagnet fails, then the light reverts to red. Now, more and more we are seeing the LED signals, nicknamed Darth Vader signals because of the large sun hood. The principles are the same as what I'm going to show you here, only previously a single light could display three different colors through the use of different colored glass that would be moved in front of the light. The LED signals just have three different colored LED lights under the sun shield, but you just simply read the signal as this bank of lights represents one signal. It's either red, yellow, or green. The signals use the colors that you've grown accustomed to with traffic signals, red, green, and yellow. Now, there are some signals coming out that are lunar, which is a bluish-white color, mostly seen in the US, but is being seen in Canada. Now, trains are slow to accelerate and slow to stop. I've been in one emergency stop situation where our train was only 7 cars long and 2 locomotives and only going 25 miles an hour. It was incredible how much space it took to stop that train with the brakes in full emergency. Probably took about 1,000 feet to stop. Some heavy freight trains can book along at 75 miles an hour. It can take them over a mile or 2 kilometers to come to a stop in full emergency brake. Now, the reason for this is the same reason trains are the second most efficient means of transportation. The contact area of the steel wheels on steel rails is about the size of a dime. So literally, an entire train's contact with the rails can be the equivalent surface area of a coffee table. Now, that means very little friction, very easy and efficient moving of incredible amounts of weight, but the downside of very little friction and surface area is stopping that train. So we need to know what we need to do with the train miles in advance so we can take appropriate action to control the train. It can take 2 miles or more to bring a freight train to a gentle, controlled stop, what we call a service stop. So we need to know well in advance what's happening up ahead. So there are basically two train control systems in Canada. OCS, which is the Occupational Control System, or CTC, which is the Centralized Traffic Control System. Now, up here in northern Alberta, where I work, it's all OCS, which means that, just like air traffic control of aircraft, we get clearance from rail traffic control to be on the rails. They give us the rails and assure that no one else is on our track, and we are controlled by rail traffic control via the radio. Rail traffic control is known as RTC. CTC is the most efficient type of rail traffic control, and that's where the signals come in. It's controlled by RTC, but RTC gives instructions to the trains via these signals. Now, the distance between the signals varies. On the CP line behind my house in Ontario, they had signals every 2 miles, for instance. but in heavier traffic corridors, the signals can be closer together. The base CTC signal is 3 lights on a mast. This signal, green over red, believe it or not, is a clear signal. It means go full bore. Whatever your speed limit is, you are permitted to go full speed ahead. The track ahead of you is clear. Now you might wonder, why on earth do they have the red lights then? Well, there are actually multiple reasons for this. First of all, understand that it is the combination of lights that communicate what to do. The combination of 3 lights, each of which could either be red, yellow, or green. Secondly, these are mechanical devices. The light bulbs can blow out. The mechanics inside that change the color of the light can break. Using 3 lights, we get an indication of what we need to do as much as 3 signals in advance. So at 2-mile spacings, we could know 6 miles in advance if we have to slow down or stop. But if the 2 lower lights aren't lit up, then we'd have to guess what the signal combination is. Now we can't do that. Our lives and the lives of others are on the line here. There's no guessing allowed. So consider the 2 red lights as placeholders. They're lit so we know that they are functioning, but they are showing red, which effectively means we can ignore them as they are below the green signal. The 3 signal heads each represent 3 different speeds. The top light is for high speed, basically whatever the maximum speed for that track is. The second head is medium speed. The bottom head is for slow speed. Medium speed is an actual speed. It is designated as 30 miles an hour. Slow speed is also an actual speed, 15 miles per hour. So if this signal means track speed, then what does this signal mean? You might have guessed. It means medium speed. So you should not be going any faster than 30 miles an hour when you pass this signal. This signal would mean, you guessed it, slow speed or 15 miles per hour. You should not be going any faster than 15 miles per hour when you pass this signal. If all 3 are red, you could probably guess what that means. Yep, it means stop. Now, this is slightly simplified for instructional purposes, but there you have it. Your first 4 signals and the basics of the CTC signal system. But remember, we're a train and we need to know miles in advance of what's ahead of us. We need to know how long in advance, what we're going to do and what we're going to need to do. So we're trucking along at track speed and we come to this signal. Remembering that the uppermost non-red light is the one we always want to pay attention to, and we ignore the other red lights as placeholders. Basically, this signal means we're okay to pass this signal at track speed, but it's yellow, warning us that the next signal is going to be a stop signal. This signal is called clear to stop because we are clear to proceed past this signal at track speed, but we need to prepare to stop at the next signal. We were just given 2 miles warning of what the next signal is displaying, and simultaneously told what to do at this signal. Now, knowing what you know now, you might just be able to figure out this signal. You guessed it, medium to stop. So if you're driving the train, you must pass this signal going no faster than medium speed, or 30 miles per hour, and expecting the next signal to be a stop signal. So you'll be preparing to stop. Now, there is one small catch to this next signal. The slow speed light is flashing yellow. There's a reason for that, which we'll get into in a minute, but let me just tell you that the slow speed head of the flashing yellow means slow, and because it's yellow, that means the next signal will be a stop signal. So this signal is slow to stop. You can pass this signal going no more than 15 miles an hour, preparing to stop at the next signal. Now, while we're on this signal, I'm going to explain one of the weird signals. Let's say the yellow light was solid yellow, not flashing. This is very similar to the slow signal, but with a further restriction. This signal is called restricting signal for restricted speed. You cannot go faster than slow speed, 15 miles an hour, but the further restriction is that you must be on the lookout for a switch lined against you, broken rails, or able to stop within half the distance of vision. Here's why. If I can only see 1,000 feet ahead of me because of a curve with trees on the embankment, for instance, I have to drive the train at a slow enough speed so that when I see something on the tracks, I can stop in 500 feet, half of the distance that I could see. Why is this? It's because that something on the tracks may be another train moving in the other direction. So if he is also driving at a speed in which he can stop in half the distance he can see, we both stop in half the distance of sight, meaning we meet in the middle and don't collide. Now again, remember, this system is built up on a mechanical system. Mechanical systems can fail. So let's take a look at our slow to stop signal. It's a flashing yellow signal on the slow speed head. There's a little relay inside the control box that flashes that light. And let's say the relay burns out and the light no longer flashes. It is now a solid yellow. What just happened? It's a fail-safe system. We had a less restricting signal. We were just limited to a maximum of 15 miles an hour. But now, because it's a solid yellow, it's now a restricting signal, which is more restrictive than a slow signal. We have to slow down to whatever speed the terrain demands. We need to be extra cautious and be able to stop within half the distance of vision. So those are two reasons why the flashing yellow light means slow speed. You'll notice this very carefully thought out trend as we start to get into the flashing lights on the signals. If the flashing fails, the signal simply reverts to a more restrictive signal. A flashing yellow light on the top now tells us what's going on 2 signals ahead of us. It's yellow and on the top head, meaning we can blow by the signal at full speed ahead. But it's yellow, warning us that up ahead is a stop signal. It's flashing, telling us that the stop signal is 2 signals ahead. So this signal will be a flashing yellow, meaning advance clear to stop. We have now been given advance warning that in 4 miles, we're going to have to stop. The next signal will be a solid yellow on the high-speed head, meaning clear to stop. We can blow by that signal at track speed if we want, preparing to stop at the next signal. Now, let's say the flashing relay melts down in the control box again, and our light now stays a solid yellow. What has happened? It's a fail-safe system. It's the wrong signal because we would read it as clear to stop. We would pass this light thinking we had to stop in 2 miles, not 4 miles. We would get to the next signal, expecting it to be a stop signal, but it would turn out to be a clear to stop signal as well. No biggie. We carry on at track speed to the next signal, prepared to stop. So now that we've seen how the signals can indicate both what to do now and what to expect to the next signal, let's go back to our first 3 signals again. This one is a clear signal, proceed at track speed. This one, as we discussed, is a medium signal, but it is green, indicating that the next signal is a clear signal. We must slow down and pass our entire train past this signal, going no faster than medium speed. Then we can pick up speed and go right at track speed. The reason for the medium speed will no doubt be because at that signal, the train will pass through a switch. Now, you can't just go blazing through these switches at high speed. You'll take the train right off the rails because it can't take the corner at high speed. But this switch is designed to be transited at 30 miles per hour or less. So you pass this signal at medium speed, indicated by the medium speed head. The light is green, which tells us that the next signal we encounter will be a clear signal. It's the same thing if we encounter a green light on the slow speed head. The switch will have an even harsher curve to it, designed for a train going 15 miles per hour or slower. However, the light is green, telling us that the next signal will be a clear signal. So once our entire train has gone through the switch, we can now accelerate to track speed, knowing that the next signal is a clear signal. This 3-head signal system is the foundation for all of the other signals I'm going to show you in this series of videos. Just keep this 3-head system in mind as you learn the other indications. High speed on the top, medium speed in the middle, slow speed on the bottom. In the next video, we'll discuss 2-headed and single-headed signals, the reasoning behind them, and how to read them. everyone. In the first video of this series, we laid the foundation for reading railroad signals with the basic three-headed railroad signal. If you haven't watched that video yet, you need to watch it first to follow along in this video. Now, these signal heads are atrociously expensive, some $20,000 or more. So do the math. If you're lighting up 100 miles of track with CCC lights in both directions with signals every 2 miles, it adds up in a hurry. Now that track for the most part is just straight high-speed track. There are no switches or sidings. So to save on costs, the railroad will remove one or two of the heads. Now remember how the two lower lights were read as placeholders? Well, the signals are exactly the same. You'll just imagine the placeholders, which I'm going to leave in this picture with the two heads faded out to help you to remember how to read the signal. This is a clear signal. Proceed at track speed. This is a clear to stop signal. Proceed at track speed, preparing to stop at next signal, which will be a stop signal. A flashing yellow on this light is not a slow signal. Why? Because remember, this is the same as a three-headed signal, but with the two lower heads removed. So this is the high-speed signal head. Do you remember what a flashing yellow on the top head was? Advance clear to stop. We can proceed at track speed. Next signal will be a clear to stop. The second signal will be a stop signal. Now, one thing to clarify before we get into the reds. When the signals are stacked above each other like this, or this, that means that signal is under direct control of rail traffic control. If the heads are staggered, they are not directly controlled by RTC, they are controlled by the automated CTC system itself. The lights are controlled by relays reading the traffic on the rails. Single head masts are generally not controlled by RTC. They are simply controlled by the automated system. The single-headed signals that are controlled by RTC have an A plate on them. Now, whether right or not, I always liken this to an absolute signal. So if a single head is red, that is a stop and proceed signal. You stop, then proceed at restricted speed. But if the signal has an A plate, that is an absolute stop. You stop at that signal and wait until it changes or RTC gives you specific written permission to pass that signal. You remember how I talked about the system being designed as a fail-safe? Well, the CTC system is tripped by the train making an electrical connection across the rails, which are connected to an electrical circuit. If that electrical circuit is broken in any way, a broken rail or broken wire for instance, the CTC lights all turn red. So this can be a real problem if your super expensive train has to stop every 2 miles because there's a problem with the system. Time is money. We get paid to ship cargo, not park the cargo on the rails. So they put an R plate on the signal mast. This is a cheap fail-safe upgrade to the pre-existing system. If the signal is red, the R plate upgrades it from a stop and proceed signal to a restricting signal. The train still has to be on the lookout for other trains, broken rails, etc., but now we don't have to stop at the signal. If the R plate falls off or is covered in the snow, then the red signal reverts back to the safer stop and proceed signal. It's a fail-safe upgrade. Now, the R plate is sort of like our red lights on the multi-headed systems. It's a placeholder. You ignore it except when the signal is red. Basically, you look for the most permissive signal. The only signal the R plate could possibly improve would be the stop signal. All other signals allow you to go at track speed, which is faster than restricting speed. So the R plate would upgrade the red signal to a restricting signal. At all other times, it's ignored. With two-headed signals, there's a number of combinations you could see, but liken it back to our three-head system. The second head represents the second head on the three-headed signal. So imagine that the third head is there only as a red placeholder, which you would ignore. And all of the signals are exactly the same as the three-headed signal. So, here is your clear signal. This is advance clear to stop signal. This is a clear to stop signal. If both heads are red, the position of the heads now tells us what to do next. If the heads are positioned vertically, this signal is controlled by RTC, who is instructing you to stop and not proceed. If, however, the heads are staggered, that is the automatic system, indicating there's something going on up ahead, most likely another train. You must stop at this signal, then you can proceed at restricted speed. Okay, that wraps up this segment. You've now learned the basics of the foundational three-headed signal, the two-headed and single-headed CTC railway signals. In the next video, we're going to introduce advance speed signals. In the previous videos, we introduced you to the basic three-head railroad signal and the three speeds it indicates, which is maximum track speed, limited by the type of track and its geometries, which for some trains in Canada can be as high as 100 miles an hour. Then medium speed, which is 30 miles per hour, and slow speed, which is 15 miles per hour. Now, most switches can only be traversed at 15 miles an hour. They are quite sharp curves. Okay, so time is money. The railroads want their trains going as fast as possible, as much as possible. Slowing down your multi-million-dollar train to 15 miles per hour just to go through a switch is annoying. The train waiting for you has to wait while you slowly get your entire train, which could be 2 miles long, through the switch at 15 miles an hour. So the railroads designed high-speed switches which have very long, gentle curves, enabling the train to transit the switch going 25 miles an hour. This speed is given its own name, diverging speed. Now, it's faster than slow speed, but track speed might be, say, 75 miles an hour. So how do you tell the train crews to slow down to 25 miles an hour through the switch? They did this with a very cheap, very simple solution, which simply modified the signals which have already existed for some 100 years. You can add a sign to a slow signal. By putting a DV plate on a signal, you upgrade that signal's slow indication to a diverging speed indication. Notice, for instance, that the slow to clear signal and diverging to clear signal are identical. It's just a DV plate put on the signal. The diverging to stop signal is identical to the slow to stop signal, but the slow to stop signal has been upgraded to a diverging to stop signal. Again, notice the fail-safe incorporated into the system. If the DV plate gets covered over with snow or some foamer steals it, the signal reverts to the 15 mile per hour slow speed instead of 25 mile per hour. So the train would wind up transiting the switch at 10 mile an hour slower than the speed the switch was actually designed for. But let's up the speed a little more. Let's make switches with really long curves and turnouts designed to be taken at 45 miles an hour. Again, this is a new speed with its own new name, limited speed. So you might be able to guess what the designers did to show the train operators how they can take the switch at 45 miles an hour. That's right, they upgrade a pre-existing signal. Now there's really only one speed they could upgrade, and that would be medium speed. So if we take the medium head and flash it green, that is an upgraded medium speed signal. It has been upgraded to limited speed. If the flasher fails, it just means the train will wind up going through the switch at a slower, safer 30 miles an hour instead of 45. Another way to upgrade the medium signal is to put a sign under the lights, an L plate. If the L plate happens to fall off or gets covered in snow so you don't see it, no big deal, it's a fail-safe system. The train will simply go through the switch at 30 miles an hour instead of 45. So if we have a solid medium speed green light, it means medium to clear. If it's flashing or has an L plate and it's green, it means limited to clear. You can cruise right through the switch at limited speed, 45 miles an hour. And once your entire train is through that switch, you know you can crank it up to track speed even if you can't see the next signal because you were just told what the next signal will be. It's a clear signal. The limited signals are read exactly the same as medium signals are, but the speed is upgraded to limited speed instead of medium speed. A medium to stop signal is upgraded to a limited to stop signal. A medium to clear signal is upgraded to a limited to clear signal. Now, one quick note before I move on. Notice that the plate add-ons have distinctive shapes. This is to aid in identification at a distance. The DV plate is rectangular. The R plate is square. The A plate is round. The L plate is triangular. All right, so we've gone through these basics of speeds and how they're shown on the signals. Slow speed, diverging speed, medium speed, limited speed, and high or track speed. Now it's going to get a little more complicated, but you'll see the method to the madness here, hopefully. Remember that these signals show us not just what to do here and now, but also what we're going to do as much as 2 signals in advance. Now this applies to all of the various speeds. If we carry on at track speed, and the signal is warning us of a slower speed up ahead, then the top head will be yellow, indicating we can pass this signal at track speed. But there's a restriction up ahead. The next head down will be an indication of the speed restriction we're going to encounter. For instance, medium speed. If the medium speed is 2 signals ahead, then we flash the top head. Just like before, that is an advanced warning. In this case, advanced clear to medium. We pass by this signal at track speed, expecting a medium signal 2 signals ahead. Now, don't forget, we can upgrade that medium signal by flashing it or putting an L plate on it. So this would be advanced clear to limited. This would be clear to limited. This would be an advanced clear to slow signal. This would be a clear to slow signal. We can upgrade the slow signal to a diverging signal with a DV plate. This would be a clear to diverging signal. It's the exact same as clear to slow signal, but the slow signal has been upgraded to diverging speed. So we come up to a switch and we're going to enter the siding. Obviously, if we have to limit the speed of the train passing a signal to something slower than track speed, we're not going to use the top head. We'll make it red as a placeholder indicating we cannot go track speed. We'll make use of the lower 2 heads to indicate what's going to happen now and at the next signal. But let's say we're going to go right through the entire siding, which has medium speed switches at both ends. The opposing train is sitting there on the main track, and we're going to go around him using the siding. We get up to the siding and we see this signal. The top signal is red and is just a placeholder. We cannot go track speed past this signal. The middle head is green, indicating medium speed at this signal. If the next signal was for track speed, it would just be the middle light as green, indicating medium to clear, right? But we can't go through the next switch at track speed. So again, we use the next signal down to indicate what the next signal will be. In this case, it is medium speed. So this signal would be medium to medium. Pass this signal and through the switch at medium speed, approaching the next signal at medium speed. If the next switch was a slow speed switch, then the signal would look like this, medium to slow. We are passing by a medium signal with the next head indicating what the next signal will be, which is a slow signal. Things get a touch more complicated from here on in. Let's say that the switch we're passing through now is a slow speed switch, but the next switch is a medium speed switch. How would you indicate it? We need to show slow speed, which is usually shown by the bottom head, but we need the lowest head to indicate what the next signal will be. Now this is where things get more specific and rules driven. We have the Canadian Rail Operating Rules, where the agreed upon signal configuration and meaning is laid out. What was decided was that this signal would mean slow to medium. We can't use the top head because that indicates track speed. So we use the middle head with a flashing yellow to indicate slow speed here and now at this signal. The next signal down is represented by the bottom head. Obviously, the next signal will not be track speed, or else we just stick a green light on the bottom head, call it a slow to clear, and go home. The next signal is not a stop signal, otherwise we just make the middle head yellow, call it a medium to stop signal, pass by medium speed, stopping at the next signal. So that narrows down the meaning of the green on the bottom head. It represents what the next signal will be, and it has to be a medium speed signal. So we pass by the slow to medium signal at slow speed, and once our train has entirely gone through the switch and passed the light, we can accelerate to 30 miles an hour, or medium speed, because we know that the next signal will be a medium speed. You can now start to see the patterns emerge as you actually read the signals instead of just using brute force memorization. This signal is slow to limited. Pass this signal at slow speed, expecting to pass the next signal at limited speed. It's the exact same signal we just saw, but the next medium signal indication has been upgraded to limited speed. This signal is limited to limited. Pass this signal at limited speed, expecting the next signal to be limited speed. Now take a guess before I tell you this next one. See if you get it right. I'm guessing you probably already got it. This is a limited to slow signal. Pass this signal at limited speed, the next signal will be a slow signal. Now, there's some minor points to be made where the signals were somewhat arbitrary. For example, clear to medium can indicate the next signal on either the middle or the bottom head. But if it uses the bottom head, it was decided to make the track speed head green. So, this is a clear to medium signal. This is a clear to limited signal. You'll also remember that if it's a two-head signal, all they've done is ditch the bottom head to save on cost. So just imagine that bottom head is there, and it's a red placeholder. This is advanced clear to medium. This is clear to limited. I'll also just briefly mention flashing red lights. Now this is something that CN does not use at all, though they are in the Canadian Rail Operating Rules. So basically, a flashing red light does one of two things. If it's indicating a signal up ahead, it's a warning of a restricting signal. For example, this is a clear to restricting. You can pass this signal at track speed, the next signal will be a restricting signal. This is a limited to restricting. Pass the signal at limited speed, expecting the next signal to be a restricting signal. You can figure out the various combinations you can get. Basically, they've upgraded the placeholder to represent a strict restricting signal up ahead. Now, if they are all red and the bottom one is flashing, that means take or leave the siding or other track. If we're taking a switch onto a branch line or into a siding, that signal just simply means the switch is lined for that other track. You're going to take the other track. CN uses the flashing arrow in advance to indicate if we're going to take the siding, and then we get our speed indication at the siding signal itself. All right, that was a lot to take in. In the final segment, we're going to cover how to read dwarf signals, which are the short or low mast signals you mostly see in rail yards. Thanks for watching.